is up to 15 to 20 times just in a day. ये बात में समझ आ रही है? We have already studied this, right? We have already understood that if it is close to Earth, it will be much faster. Why? Because velocity is a function of distance, right? Velocity जो है, it is a function of what? It is a function of distance. So this distance is 35,786 kilometers per hour. It takes 24 hours to travel from Bombay to Ahmedabad. Very important. At a certain distance, देखो ये speed change होती रहेगी with the distance, right? At a certain distance, कोई तो ऐसा distance होगा जब Earth की speed of rotation and उसकी speed of revolution match हो जाएगी, है ना? जब हर distance पे, hold on. Let's see where it will go this. Yeah. Okay. All right. Just give me a second. Yes. Okay. So at every distance, right? If at every distance there is a different speed, there has to be some distance at which the speed is exactly same as that of the rotation of the Earth, because Earth की rotation gets speed and its rotation gets speed. So at a certain distance, what happens? The speed becomes exactly the same. So what does it look like? This is the satellite IM Earth. Earth will rotate. Satellite will revolve. ये satellite revolve कर रही है, Earth will rotate. At a certain distance, the speed of revolution of satellite and rotation of Earth becomes constant. That's the same. So what is happening? This. The speed at which the Earth is rotating, the satellite is revolving. Okay. चक्कर में आ जाएगा मुझे. So the speed at which this satellite is revolving, at that speed the Earth is rotating. So what does that lead to? That leads to a same. It looks to me. जब मैं ऐसे देखा हूँ satellite को खड़े होके, मुझे लगता है तो stationary है, तो हिल नहीं रही. If it is very close, then it will go like this. I will be rotating slower, so I will be able to see it move in the air with the telescope. But if it is exactly the same, I will never be able to see it move. So it will appear stationary relative to the Earth. So it will be called geostationary. Geostationary. Now at a certain distance, this happens. Now what is that distance? How can I calculate the distance? I know that the velocity of the satellite is a function of this. G into mass of Earth by radius. Radius है distance, r is distance. Okay. अभी distance कैसे होगा? This distance would be something like this. ऐसा. ये Earth का radius, ये हमारा surface, ये कुछ height पे satellite होगी. And it has to revolve at the same speed that the Earth rotates. तो अगर मुझे Earth की rotation की speed पता है, I know it rotates in 24 hours, तो मुझे उसकी speed पता है. If I know speed of rotation of Earth, right? And speed is what? Speed is distance upon time. मुझे distance पता है, Earth को कितना घूमना है. मुझे time पता है, 24 hours चल रही है. तो from here I can find velocity of Earth. और ये velocity of satellite है. मुझे velocity of satellite equal to velocity of Earth करना है. तो एक particular distance मिल जाएगा, जिसके लिए वैल्यू सही होगी. अब ये particular distance will be not just this distance r, ये तो r लिखा है यहाँ पे. This is what? This is this complete distance. This r is this distance. तो जो भी आएगा उससे मेरे को ये x की वैल्यू मिलेगी. तो this x, क्योंकि मैंने surface तक का distance काउंट नहीं करना है, distance मैंने बताया center, not from surface. So now I will find the value of this x. कितना ऊपर हमारी Earth needs to revolve ताकि उसकी speed is same as Earth speed of rotation. तो ये जो distance calculate किया गया, इसकी value आई 35,786 kilometers, and this figure you have to remember. Okay, 35,786 kilometers. So it was found that at 35,786 kilometers, it will appear as if a satellite in the air is stationary, called geostationary. Now what is geosynchronous? Let's see. This geostation, it will appear at 35,786 kilometers. So it was found that at 35,786 kilometers, it will appear as if a satellite in the air is stationary, called geostation. Now what is geosynchronous? Let's see. This is where the Earth solution period. So for someone looking away from the Earth, this is where most of stationary because both are moving at the same speed. If distance is more than 31,786 kilometers, and it takes more than 24 hours to complete the orbit. If it is closer than 31,786 kilometers, it will orbit start at the Earth. International Space Station, which is at a distance of around 400 kilometers from Earth, will orbit nearly 15 times a day. Geostationary satellite orbit. It is at a distance of 34,786 feet. समझ आ गया? अगर पास होगा it will be faster. ज़्यादा दूर हो गया it will be slower, but there is one perfect distance. Okay? When the astronaut surface, and this is when satellite takes 24 hours to rotate one orbit, single side. To be precise, it is 23 hours because it takes 4 seconds. But consider it as 24 hours, that is approximately. From the ground, it appears continuous. From the ground, it will appear to be stationary. ऐसा रहेगा कि यही है. It is like this only. It will appear stationary. When it is going around, it will appear stationary. Okay? This is important. It will appear stationary. तो इसमें हम कह दिया geostationary. This is important for communication purposes. Good. अब इसकी इंपॉर्टेंस समझो. यार मुझे अगर एक सैटेलाइट को रखना है, सैटेलाइट का मेन काम क्या है? What is the main purpose of satellite? Main purpose of satellite is to communicate. है ना? It is to communicate with the Earth. Earth से मुझे सैटेलाइट से कम्युनिकेट करना है. यही तो मेन पर्पस है ना. Earth से मैं कैसे कम्युनिकेट करूँगा? I will use an antenna. Here, I will use an antenna to communicate. Correct? ये this is the antenna and the earth, this is the satellite. I fix the antenna like this. Now I don't have to move the antenna every time the satellite moves, right? So the antenna can be kept stationary. इसलिए इस ऑर्बिट की बहुत ज्यादा वैल्यू है. आप एक एंटेना लगाओ और फिक्स कर दो. अगर सैटेलाइट ऐसे होती रहती तो मुझे एंटेना भी ऐसे बार बार करना पड़ता. इट वुड बी एक्सपेंसिव प्रोसेस. बट यहाँ पे भी एंटेना स्टेशनरी ऐसा, right? Because it is moving with the earth. So this is why the geostationary orbit has huge. Okay, let's continue. There is no need to change direction of antenna to this way. This orbit lies directly above the equator, at a distance of 31,706 kilometers from Earth's surface. This is called geostationary orbit. Second is the orbit in this orbit called geostationary satellites. अब ये ऑर्बिट कहाँ है? It's in the plane of the equator only, right? क्योंकि अगर ऊपर नीचे कर देंगे तो again the distance and the angle will change. The angle has to also be constant. So it is in the equator. तो ये है geostationary. Okay. Let us now study geosynchronous orbits. Geosynchronous orbits are also similar to geosynchronous. Okay. Geosynchronous orbit कैसे? Geosynchronous orbit है. Just hold on. Let me like this. Geosynchronous orbit है ऐसा green. Okay. It is also in the equatorial plane, but not exactly at the equator. जो equator है, equator के साथ तो यहाँ पे बना दिया geostationary. इस पे किसी भी एंगल पे हो, it can be at any angle to this at the same distance. Distance वही है इसका, but if दोनों geostationary geosynchronous, the distance is this only. ठीक है? But the angle is different. ये different angle पे है, वो different angle. Why is it at a different angle? Because at a different angle, it can cover more data. It can get more imaging, right? But there will be a problem that I will have to move the antenna. Let's see both of those. But there is one difference. Geosynchronous orbit is the one equator of Earth, but geosynchronous orbit may not be exactly above equator. It often orbits at an inclination. The satellite series orbit also at 20. So it is not exactly above equator. It is at some inclination. This is geosynchronous. It is in sync with the Earth, but it will not appear stationary from the ground as you will soon see. It is in sync with the Earth, but it will not appear stationary. So called geosynchronous. देखो तो अब क्या हो रहा है इट विल लुक लाइक इट इज मूविंग अप एंड डाउन बिकॉज़ ऑफ इट्स इंक्लिनेशन जैसा आपने देखा तो इसकी रोटेशन कैसी होगी इसकी रोटेशन होगी ऐसी समझा है तो वही साथ में द टाइम इज नॉट चेंजिंग बिकॉज़ द डिस्टेंस इज कांस्टेंट बट बिकॉज़ देयर इज एन एंगल तो यहां पर तो द फर्स्ट टाइम इट वाज लाइक दिस टाइम इट इज लाइक दिस it is going up also down also but the distance is same for speed is same time period of rotation is the same that is really like a long is something that you will be at any clock but this is using for something that is the same place for the particular clock and then as what is it ये क्या बात है फिर geosynchronous orbit में although it is changing but it is changing with time क्योंकि time same है at 1 p.m. it's here at 2 p.m. it's here at 3 p.m. it's here at 4 p.m. it's here at 5 p.m. it's here so at some time of the day let's say you fix it 3 p.m. I have to fix the antenna so at one point in the day you can fix the antenna and you will get the information at that time right you might not be able to get real time information but at one point it will be there every day at certain time so geosynchronous and because it's at an angle it will also lead to more data collection and ये orbit limited है ये blue one it is a limited orbit you can't put every satellite there so that is why geosynchronous orbit is also important so the geosynchronous satellites not so many almost geosynchronous satellites move off is could be longer it's the same observation case you must have keep in mind geosynchronous orbit is also a lot geosynchronous orbit speciality of geosynchronous orbit this is also important geosynchronous orbit is both these but geostationary is a type of वो ऐसा टाइप है जिसमें कोई मूवमेंट नहीं है जो इक्वेटर पे है दैट इज जियोस्टेशनरी बट इट इज आल्सो इन सिंक विद द अर्थ राइट
Even the geostationary orbit is in sync with the Earth. So it is a geostationary orbit is a geosynchronous orbit. क्या कह रहा हूं मैं कि जो geosynchronous है, this is a broad term. This only means an orbit that is in sync with the Earth. So ये तो है ही all of these orbits are in sync with the Earth, but only one orbit is stationary. So all geostationary orbits are geosynchronous, but not the other way around. Okay? अब जो geosynchronous orbit है, उसमें क्या हो रहा था? ऐसे movement होगी, ऐसे. So if either I can take the information at one point in a day, or I can involve an antenna that is capable of north-south movement. Only this movement. Only this movement is required. Only north-south movement is required. That is how we use a geosynchronous orbit. Okay?
All geostationary orbits are
synchronous orbit. Orbit है, उसमें क्या हो रहा था? ऐसे movement होगी, ऐसे. So if either I can take the information at one point in a day, or I can involve an antenna that is capable of north-south movement. Only this movement. Only this movement is required. Only north-south movement is required. That is how we use a geosynchronous orbit. Okay?
All geostationary orbits are geosynchronous orbits, but not all geosynchronous orbits are geostationary.
Clear?
Next we shall see what are polar orbits.
ये देखो ये लास्ट चीज. This is polar orbit. Polar मतलब sun synchronous. And polar कौन सा है? Near Earth. Earth के पास आ गया. ये near Earth orbit. जिसमें हम क्या कर रहे थे? Remote sensing. Earth observation. This is the last concept for today. So just see how this orbit goes, and then I will let you go.
When I say polar orbit, pass through north and south poles of the Earth. Polar orbit signals are very close to Earth in a range of just 200,000 kilometers. Hence it orbits 15 to 20 times a day. For example,
it orbits the Earth 15 to 20 times a day. It's very very fast. क्या पर्पस है इसका? इसका पर्पस क्या है कि मान लो मुझे पूरी अर्थ कवर करनी है इन वन डे. I want to observe the entire Earth in one day. So it will look something like this. It will pass the Earth 14 times. मैं पूरी अर्थ को बार-बार देखूंगा. So if it is passing these many times a day, it will cover the entire Earth. It is minute fast. I will not have the antenna to track it every time. Data मुझे थोड़ा delay मिलेगा, but it will cover the entire Earth, known as Earth observation. For this, I need a satellite that is fast enough to cover the Earth. To cover the Earth every time. In every day, it has to cover the Earth. Only then I am able to observe the entire Earth. Okay. So, in a polar orbit, like we have seen here, what is happening? This is happening. If it goes this fast, it covers the Earth. Now I can use it for Earth observation. I can use it for remote sensing. So obviously, this will be polar orbit will be a near Earth orbit because I want it to be. So this is it for today. This video, ये जो video है जो हम देख रहे थे, if you search geosynchronous versus geostationary versus polar orbits, आपको YouTube पे दिख जाएगी. It is created by a channel called Clarity of Concept, and full credit to that person. Right? I don't believe in seeing other person's work. I am using this video to show you. आप please जाके उसकी video देखो, subscribe to their channel, give them likes because it deserves it. It was a wonderful video. Okay, it's the channel name is Clarity of Concept. Okay, all channels with the name Clarity have great content. And if you search geostationary versus geosynchronous versus polar orbit, you will be able to see that. So first question. Solve this question, question 2.
Proclamation.
Question 4.
State assembly was in the proclamation. Graphene is a computing. What is it? Study. Graphene. See. It is two-dimensional material and has a good electrical conductivity. That is a graphene. Graphene is a single 2D, we can say the plate of the graphite, which is multi-dimensional, or we can say 3D. And graphene is made out of the graphite. When the graphite is reduced to single layer, or we can say that in the 2D layer, then it is called as the graphene, and it is a type of a nano carbon, we can say nanotube, and it is one of the thinnest but strongest material tested so far, and it is entirely made up of silicon, but it is a wrong statement. It is not made up of silicon. The graphene is made up of the carbon. There are the element of the carbons in the graphene, not the silicon, and it can be used as a conducting electrodes required for touch screens and LCD and organic LEDs. Required for touch screens. Yeah, required for touch screens.
Okay. Question 5. Last question for today.
Other than those made by humans, nanoparticles do not exist in nature. This is a wrong statement because the nanoparticle can be, or we can say, that is existing in the nature by themselves. It is not necessarily that the every nanoparticles can be made by the humans, or every nanoparticles can be manufactured by the humans only. It can exist in nature by itself automatically. Nanoparticles of the some metallic oxides are used in manufacture of the some cosmetic. Yes, it can be used in cosmetic also. Nanoparticles of the some commercial products which enter the environment are unsafe for humans. Yeah, everything has side effect, or everything which benefits us has uh, side effect on us. There is nothing that which cannot affect negatively
Okay.
to us.
Alright. Firstly, answer this as certain. But before that, I'm so happy that so many of you are participating actively. Right? And because ये बहुत important है. It's very very important for you to participate in these tests. Because see, if you do previous year questions, होता क्या है, you will get an idea of how UPSC frames the questions, and you are doing them in a test format after you have taken the class. So you are tired also, right? This is great. You will get a lot of very good practice here. Okay. Alright. This is the first question. Answer here is, please correct that. It's not the answer. Okay, but we'll read the question and see. A company marketing food products advertises that its items do not contain trans fat. We have read trans fats. This is the previous year question. And just one more thing, we are doing level like very tough questions because these are the toughest possible questions. इससे tough तो कुछ है ही ना, because these are the UPSC questions, right? What does this campaign signify to the customer? That there are no trans fats. So first, food products are not made out of hydrogenated oil. This is correct, right? Because partial hydrogenation was done to create trans fat. This is trans fat free. So first statement is correct. Second statement, food products are not made out of animal fat. So this statement is wrong because animals also contain saturated fat, and trans fat don't come only from animals. Some come from animals, but most trans fat are artificial. So if something is trans fat free, you cannot say it has no animal fat. It might have saturated fat. Saturated fat comes from animals, right? So second statement is wrong. Third statement, oil used are not likely to damage the cardiovascular health of consumers. Now this is a slightly controversial statement, but the answer is C. I'll check this also because the answer is given differently in different places. I'll check that. See now, if you consider it, saturated fats can also cause damage, but not as they are not as bad as trans fats. So just give me some time. I'll check this question, but I hope you understand the concept. In my opinion, the answer should be C. Okay. Second question is with regards to carbon nanotubes. Correct? Now they can be used as carriers of drugs and antigens in the human body. Yes. Even if they are
ले जा तू संदेशा मेरा मैं सबके गाऊं
are not biocompatible. They can be used as carriers of drugs and antigens. Why? Because even viruses are used as carriers of antigens. Even viruses generate immune response. Still they can be used as a drug, as a carrier. Even the medicines that you take, they are technically foreign things, but you are taking them, right? Because they are in small quantity. They are acceptable. Small quantity of foreign things are acceptable. Even your food technically is foreign organism for the body. So a small quantity is fine. But if you make them into a blood capillary, it will be that constantly blood has to flow through them. Constantly. This is wrong. And if you eliminate the second statement, you get the answer, which is C. Now, in the exam mode, this was a difficult question. The body. So, a small quantity is fine. But if you make them into a blood capillary, it will be that constantly blood has to flow through them. Constantly. This is wrong. And if you eliminate the second statement, you get the answer, which is C. Now, in the exam mode, this was a difficult question. And if you got it wrong, it's okay. But I'm just telling you how to think. We have read carbon nanotubes are not biocompatible. Right? So, this is second question. Now, red carbon nanotubes are not biocompatible. Right? Okay. But I'm just telling you how to think. We have read carbon nanotubes are not biocompatible. with reference to use of nanotechnology in the health sector, which of the following statements is not correct? Now, I don't know if you have noticed this thing about the test or not, but every time I give the 2 tough questions first and then the 3 easy questions. If there is such a classification. Why? Because I want you to do the tough question first. I want you to feel pressure first, and then you should not mess this up. वो गलत करने की आजादी है, ये गलत करने की आजादी नहीं है, right? Targeted drug delivery is made possible. Yes, nanotechnology can contribute to gene therapy. Yes, it can contribute because it can do things at the level of the cell. So I might be able to make a nanoparticle that goes and cuts DNA at a specific place. So yes, it can contribute, and after this. Now, great. Graphene is seen in the news recently. What is its importance? देखो, in these questions, you should read the options and also try and find the option you can eliminate. For instance, if you look at the third option, it is made entirely out of silicon. So entirely anyway is an extreme word, and you know it is not entirely out of silicon. It is actually a carbon nanotube. But what I wanted to explain to you through this question was, ये word entirely को लिखो. देख कह सकते थे it is made of silicon, but graphene में मान लो 1% भी सिलिकॉन होता. ग्राफीन में मान लो 1% भी सिलिकॉन होता तो भी काम चल जाता. Even if there was 1% silicon, this question could have been statement could have been right, but they put this word entirely, right? Entirely. So this made it an extreme statement. And anyway, you know, for the knowledge भी है, कि silicon की नहीं है. If you eliminate the third one, you will get the answer 1, 2, and 4. Fourth statement, you can see it can be used as conducting electrode required for touchscreens, LEDs, and organic LEDs. And we have read that graphene's main purpose was flexible LED. Okay. Alright. Last question. This is 2022 prelims question. Last year. Other than those made by humans, nanoparticles do not exist in nature. This of course is wrong. कुछ तो nanoparticle naturally होते होंगे, right? Somewhere or the other nanoparticles must be getting made in nature. How is it possible to even prove this? You will have to check every natural particle to make sure the statement is correct, right? अब दिमाग लगाओगे चेक करने के लिए that nanoparticles do not exist in nature. I will have to scan every nook and cranny of the earth, and only then I will be able to see this. So this is wrong. Now we are left with 2 and 3 or 3 only. So 3 I don't have to read. Now nanoparticles of some metallic oxide are used in the manufacture of some cosmetics. See how generalized they have made it. Some metallic oxides, some cosmetics. And we have already read titanium is used, zinc is used in the manufacture of sunscreen. This is correct. Answer is B. Alright, so we are done with this. Now let us do the one-pager review. Okay, let's revise all the one-pager that we have done so far. Alright, let's start. So we started with basics of biotech. Okay, in basics of biotech, we read cell. Cell is the basic unit of life. It has a nucleus, it has a cell membrane, it has a cytoplasm and cell organ. This we have read. Then for growth and reproduction, important information has to be transmitted. What was that information? DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. There was a long DNA molecule, it needed to be condensed. So what was happening? DNA to chromatin, chromatin to chromosome. This was the first thing we have read. Then we read DNA to RNA to protein, the central dogma of genetics. Here we read that there are 2 processes, transcription and translation. You know the meaning? Why are we making RNA? So that it's single stranded and the processing is easier. Why am I making protein? Because they are enzymes for cellular function. Then what is RNA versus DNA? We read some differences, single strand, uracil in place of thymine, etc. Then we read about virus. Virus, borderline between living and non-living. They have DNA and RNA and protein, but no cellular machinery. So they cannot be cultured outside the living cell. They can only reproduce inside host cell by using the machinery of the host cell to reproduce. So they need a living medium to reproduce. Some viruses start with RNA. These are retroviruses. All RNA viruses are not retroviruses, but some RNA viruses are retroviruses. Example of that is HIV/AIDS. So what was the enzyme we were using? Reverse transcriptase enzyme. Alright, this was the first biotechnology one. Okay. Then we read, I'm sorry it's visible like this, but I'm unable to make it, but I'll read everything that's written, don't worry. Then we read that the cell is a fundamental unit of life and unicellular organisms can exist independently. Okay. Cell theory, we read all living organisms are composed of cells, and omnicellular is cellular. That means new cells arise from pre-existing cells. Then we read that there is a basic structure of the cell, that is nucleus, plasma membrane or cell membrane, and cytoplasm. Then there were certain differences between eukaryotic cell and prokaryotic cell. Now those differences are written here. We read that eukaryotic, new nucleus, are those cells whose nucleus is membrane bound. Prokaryotic are those cells who don't have membrane bound nucleus, who don't have membrane bound organelles. So they only have ribosome. Okay. Now, then we saw the cell size difference, organism size difference. Of course, prokaryotic are unicellular, they are smaller. Then we saw the genetic material. Genetic material here it was inside the membrane bound nucleus, and there it was weighted. Then cell wall, the difference is cell wall is there in prokaryotic cell, but in eukaryote it is there only in the plant. It's there in the plant, it's there in the fungi, but it's not there in the animal. This we saw. Then we saw that plasma membrane and cytoplasm of course will be present in both. So this was the difference between eukaryotic and prokaryotic cell. Then we saw the components of the cell. We saw what the cellular membrane was. Just try and remember, it was phospholipid bilayer, selectively permeable, certain integral proteins, certain peripheral proteins. Then there was the cell wall, living. It was non-living structure, rigid, providing support to the cell. Then we read the cell organelles, their functions such as smooth endoplasmic reticulum, rough endoplasmic reticulum, ribosome. We read about mitochondria. We read about vacuole, Golgi bodies. We even saw the differences between a plant and an animal cell. That vacuole in a plant cell is bigger because it has to store. Then we read about the nucleus. Nucleus has nucleolus for ribosomal RNA or rRNA synthesis. And then we studied the process of translation in detail using mRNA, tRNA and rRNA. Right? Then we differentiated between plant and animal cells. What is the chloroplast? That is there only in plant cell. Cell wall is there only in plant cell. Vacuole is larger in the plant cell. In animal cell there is centrosome and centriole. Then we came to understanding human reproduction. When we were understanding human reproduction, we first understood the concept of chromosomes. Right? Then we understood the concept of meiosis and mitosis. This we had understood. Right? Then we understood how gamete formation happens. What the sperm contributes is only the nucleus. What the egg contributes is the entire cell. Then we read that in mitochondria also there is DNA. So if in mitochondrial DNA of the mother there is a problem, we need mitochondrial replacement therapy. This was known as three parents baby. For mitochondrial replacement therapy, there were two approaches. Either we could do a pro-nuclear transfer. We could take the pro-nucleus and put inside the third egg. Or we could do reconstructed egg technology, or also called maternal-spindle technology. One was before fertilization, one was after fertilization. Pro-nuclear obviously is after fertilization. Maternal-spindle technology is before fertilization. Both of these were types of mitochondrial replacement therapy. This is known as three parents baby. This we had understood, right? This was the second class material. Okay. Done. Next we moved on to principles of biotechnology. Here we first read basics of genetics. Here we again read DNA versus RNA, the complete process of transcription and translation, the removal of intons in the process of translation, why certain DNA is non-coding DNA, right? Then we learned about getting better genes. Getting better genes could be done through two purposes, either genetic modification or traditional hybridization. We understood the problems of this process and why then this was introduced, right? Then we read the basics of biotechnology. The two principles of biotechnology were genetic engineering and downstream processing. Why genetic engineering? Introducing a foreign gene. Why downstream processing? To obtain the product. Okay, all of this we have read. Now after that, we read certain other things called recombinant DNA. Recombinant DNA is what? DNA that is combined from two organisms to come to one place that is naturally not found. Alright, then we read the tools of recombinant DNA technology. Which were these tools? Restriction enzymes. What were they doing? They were creating sticky ends. Then they were joining two pieces of genes together. Right? Then there was DNA ligase. Right? This we had read. Then we read the steps of recombinant DNA technology, those 8 steps. What were they? You isolate the gene first. That's the gene of interest. Then you do the PCR for amplification. Then you cut it with restriction enzyme. You paste it with DNA ligase. Then you insert the plasmid back. Then the bacteria started producing what we wanted it to produce. Then you obtain through downstream processing. This was done in the case of human insulin. So this we read steps of recombinant DNA technology. Then we came to GM crops. In GM crops we read about BT cotton. We read about RNA interference. RNA interference happening in all eukaryotic cells, but in plants it was specifically useful. We read in case of tobacco. In BT cotton we read about ball guard technology, the issues of ball guard technology, terminator gene, trait fees, right? Then we read the regulation. Regulation is also there in the next one page. In the regulation, we read the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and 3 other committees and various other ministries as well. Alright. Then we read the applications of biotech. Applications of biotech were green biotechnology, blue biotechnology, red environmental and forensic biotechnology, organized like this so that you could write better in your mails. And in this case, forensic biotechnology was used for DNA fingerprinting. Correct? This we have read. Alright. Continuing with the applications of biotechnology, we went to the regulation of GM crops. Here we saw the global regulation, that was the UNCBD, right? Then we read the Indian regulations. In Indian regulations, there were 5 competent committees. Then the GEAC was most important. We read a term called Event-Based Approval Mechanism for BT cotton. Event 142 was an example there. Then we read about GM crops in India, in the world, and certain current affairs. In India, BT cotton is allowed. GM mustard, it's allowed for environmental release, but not allowed for commercial release. BT brinjal is banned. GM rubber trials are going on. Then we read in detail what is Dhara Mustard Hybrid 11, which I believe is very important for this year. GM mustard and its importance. This we have read, right? Why is it still called hybrid? Bard means Bard Star technology. This also we have read. Then we came to reading about gene therapy. Gene therapy was of 2 types, somatic and germline gene therapy. Somatic gene therapy was done in those cells that are normally there in the body, and germline was done for those cells that are producing gametes for the next generation. Then we started reading about genome editing techniques, right? In gene therapy, we had also read a couple of other things like in vivo and in vitro. It can be done inside the body and outside in the lab. And we had also read about CAR T-cell therapy, chimeric antigen receptor T-cell therapy, which is in the news this year. Then we read about genome editing. Genome editing, we read many enzymes. We learned about the CRISPR-Cas9 system, how it was normally done in bacteria. Then we read the zinc finger nuclease, TALEN, site-directed nuclease 1, site-directed nuclease 2, site-directed nuclease 3. The differences between the two. Why site-directed nuclease 1 has been allowed, 2 has been allowed, but 3 has not been allowed. This we read. Then we read about homing endonuclease or meganuclease. This is done. Then we read about animal cloning. In animal cloning, we read somatic cell nuclear transfer technology. The recent cloning by China of an Arctic wolf. This thing. we have read, right? Then we have read about therapeutic cloning, that we are making a replica of a human for certain organs, but that was an ethical issue. That also we have understood. Then we read about stem cell therapy and the various types of stem cells. What are pluripotent stem cells? What are induced pluripotent stem cells? What are totipotent stem cells? What are Yamanaka genes? This all we have read. Okay. After that, we came to the idea of vaccines. To understand vaccines, we first read immunity, what is innate and acquired immunity. Then we read about vaccination. Vaccination, the main principle was differentiating the antigen from the pathogen and the principle of memory. Then we read the type of vaccines, either based on administration or based on the pathogen. They can be live attenuated, they can be killed vaccine, they can be DNA vaccine, mRNA vaccine, subunit vaccine. All of this we have read. Then we read the differences between mRNA and DNA vaccine, what are polysaccharide vaccine, what is active vaccine, what is passive vaccine, what is subunit vaccine, what is conjugate vaccine. All of these terms we have read. Then we read about COVID-19 vaccines in India and even the new ones like Incovac, which was a nasal vaccine by Bharat Biotech, or a Zycov-D, which was a DNA vaccine. Finally, we came to some other vaccines like pneumococcal vaccine in the news because of its inclusion in the universal immunization program, it being of two types, being a polysaccharide vaccine and then being made into a conjugate vaccine. Then we read Bacillus calmette during BCG vaccine and toxoid vaccine. So this completed vaccines for us. Then we started reading about health. In health, we first read about genome sequencing. This part I think we have done genome sequencing, but some things are left here. We read about genome sequencing and why are we sequencing the genome? Why are we finding out these sequencing? What was the Human Genome Project? What was the telomere to telomere project? This we read. Then we read about viruses. Then I read about nutrient deficiency diseases. What nutrient deficiency disease does vitamin C cause? Scurvy. Vitamin D, rickets. We read about all of that. Then we read pathogenic diseases. We read a table. That is the only thing I think which is difficult to remember for you, but that you have to do because you saw so many questions are there. We read pathogenic diseases, bacterial disease, viral disease, and most importantly, we studied the transmission mechanism. How the transmission is happening if it is a pico.
That is why we have observed. That is why you have observed that the toothpaste is, the toothpaste is a little bit sour in taste.
Tart, sour, oral disease, if it is a blood disease, how the transmission will happen. Then we read about antimicrobial resistance and the One Health approach. These two things are very important for this year, so please read them in detail because I also told you they are part of our G20 priorities. One Health approach and antimicrobial resistance. This we did, right? Then we did the traditional medicine in India. Traditional medicine, the new center that has been made in Jamnagar. Then we read about neglected tropical disease. This also we know, we studied it with the idea of the global south. Continuing with health, we read tuberculosis, the new regimen, the new plan for elimination. We read the differences between elimination, eradication and disease control. Then we read about fats, saturated, unsaturated and trans fats. Give me some time to clarify today's question. I'll do it in next class, right? Then we read about foodborne diseases, what FSSAI is doing. There is a Vogue scheme, hygiene rating scheme. Then we also read about food fortification in India and why rice fortification is becoming more and more important for us, and what is hidden hunger, what is micronutrient deficiency, etc. Then we read about ORS, oral rehydration solution, because of the death or unfortunate death of Dr. Dilip Mahalanobis, who has also been given a Padma Award. In this we read a concept called co-transporter, sodium glucose co-transporter. Now 3 topics of health were left: Indian Biological Data Center, genomic surveillance and a couple of other diseases. This we'll do sometime later. This is the revision of all the 1 pages so far, except for the revision of nanotechnology, which I expect you to do yourself. Read the nanotechnology 1 page yourself, and then again you will sit down and do all of this revision one more time. So health and biotech I have revised like this. If you have followed the classes well, आपको अभी लगा होगा कि बहुत time लगा, and I understand that. But just understand, if you are able to do all of this for science and tech in 1 day in May, and 1 day in May you are able to do environment, you will free up masses of time for other subjects, and that is my goal. So I hope you are enjoying. I am certainly enjoying teaching you. Thank you for your patient listening. हम स्टार्ट हुए थे फ्रॉम लो अर्थ ऑर्बिट. लो अर्थ ऑर्बिट की क्या कंडीशन थी? लो अर्थ ऑर्बिट की कंडीशन थी 0 to 2000 किलोमीटर. ये बात हमें पता है, राइट? फिर हमने देखा दैट फ्रॉम 2000 to 36000 हमने इसको क्या कहा था? वी कॉल्ड इट द मिड अर्थ ऑर्बिट. समझ आ रही है ना? लो अर्थ ऑर्बिट 0 to 2000, मिड अर्थ ऑर्बिट MEO फ्रॉम 2000 to 36000. क्लियर? MEO हम यूज क्यों करते हैं? MEO यूज करने के जो रीजंस हैं, उसका वन ऑफ द मेजर रीजंस इज द नेविगेशन सिस्टम. जो आपके फोन में गूगल मैप चल रहा है, इट इज ड्यू टू दिस नेविगेशन सिस्टम सैटेलाइट्स इन द मिड अर्थ. ओके, जो गूगल मैप्स हम रोज यूज करते हैं ऑलमोस्ट, और अपना सारा डेटा गूगल को गिफ्ट कर देते हैं, उसमें दिस इज द सैटेलाइट दैट इज बीइंग यूज्ड. अब हर कंट्री का अपना अलग नेविगेशन सिस्टम है, राइट? सो लेट्स टॉक अबाउट दैट. इसमें सबसे फेमस सिस्टम जो जीपीएस ही है, राइट? जीपीएस ही नाम पड़ गया उसका, ऑल्दो जीपीएस इज नॉट द एक्चुअल नेम. व्हाट इज द एक्चुअल नेम हम नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में देखते हैं. जीपीएस इज द सिस्टम ऑफ यूएसए. इसका जो एक्चुअल नाम है वो नैवस्टार है, नेविगेशन सैटेलाइट कॉन्स्टलेशन, नैवस्टार. दिस इज द अमेरिकन सिस्टम ऑफ जीपीएस. और ये बात अगले स्लाइड में लिखी हुई है, सो यू डोंट नीड टू नोट इट डाउन. अमेरिकन सिस्टम इज नैवस्टार. हाउ नैवस्टार वर्क्स वी विल सी राइट नाउ. उसके बाद ग्लोनास है. ग्लोनास इज द रशियन सिस्टम. गैलीलियो, दिस इज द नेम ऑफ द यूरोपियन यूनियन सिस्टम, एंड इट इज सेड दैट इट इज द मोस्ट एक्यूरेट वन नाउ. ऑल्दो इतनी डिटेल आपको याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है, बट GPS of USA या NAVSTAR of USA, GLONASS of Russia, Galileo of European Union. Then China has 2 systems. One is BeiDou-1 and one is BeiDou-2. BeiDou-2 is the more important one because it is a global system. Global means what? Global means कि पूरी अर्थ को कवर करेगा. जैसे GPS कवर दी एंटायर, अमेरिका ने बनाया, बट आपको अपने घर के बाहर की गली भी GPS में दिखेगी. So it is a global system. BeiDou-2 or just BeiDou is China's global system. Now there is another type of system. The other type of system is कि मान लो this is the earth, ये है our dear country India, ठीक है? So if we can put only the navigation around this, मतलब हम बस यहाँ के एक navigation system बना लें कि उसमें सब कुछ यहाँ का तो दिख जाए, but US में, यूरोप में क्या चल रहा है, US में क्या चल रहा है, ये सब ना दिखे. तो ऐसे सिस्टम को हम क्या करेंगे? This will be called a regional system because it is specific to a particular region. अगर हम ऐसा सिस्टम बनाएंगे which is talking about the entire earth, पूरी अर्थ कवर कर रहा है, तो उसको हम कहेंगे global system. तो चाइना के पास 2 सिस्टम हैं, and the more important one is BeiDou-2, which is a global system. Okay, तो हमने ये देख लिया. जो BeiDou-1 है, the earlier version was only a regional system. चाइना का जो BeiDou-1 था, it was only a regional system, and it was doing it in Central Asia, and it was also covering a part of India. This was the regional system, but now as their economy has grown and they have expanded, they are now moving on to a global system. Now, then we talk about India's system. India's system is called NAVIC. NAVIC stands for Navigation with Indian Constellation. You will see this system also in detail. NAVIC, also known as Indian Regional Navigation System. ठीक है? तो ये जो NAVIC है, this is a regional system by India. मतलब ये सिर्फ इंडिया एंड इंडिया के अराउंड कुछ रीजन कवर करता है. एंड देन देयर इज QZSS, फुल फॉर्म इज नॉट इंपॉर्टेंट. दिस इज आल्सो अ रीजनल सिस्टम मेड बाय जापान. सो दीस आर द few regional systems and global systems of navigation, right? We are using which satellites here? We must be using geosynchronous satellite or geostationary satellite, right? Because it's in the mid earth orbit, ना? एंड आप समझ भी सकते हो, अगर ऐसा सिस्टम बनाना है तो एंटेना के साथ जो अलाइनमेंट है, इट हैज टू बी लाइक दिस, ताकि रीडिंग हो सके. कैसे होती है वो बताऊंगा, बट इट कैन नॉट बी डन एट अ लोअर ऑर्बिट लेवल. आई होप यू आर अंडरस्टैंडिंग, बिकॉज़ एट लोअर ऑर्बिट सैटेलाइट इज मूविंग वेरी वेरी क्विकली. ऑलराइट, ओके. नाउ लेट्स टॉक ऑफ फर्स्ट India system navigation with Indian constellation. Alright, it has 7 satellites. 4 are geosynchronous, 3 are geostationary. Okay, 4 are geosynchronous, 3 are geostationary. अब इसमें एक और डाउट भी था, वो मैं अभी बता देता हूँ कि अगर हम ऐसे अर्थ बनाएं, एक के जियोसिंक्रोनस ऑर्बिट बनाएं, एक के जियोस्टेशनरी ऑर्बिट बनाएं और एक के जियोसिंक्रोनस ऑर्बिट बनाएं, तो ये तो क्लैश नहीं हो जाएंगे. Of course, there are some common points on those orbits, but the orbit is very big. It's not a line. It is so huge कि अगर आप यहाँ पे 10,000 सैटेलाइट भी डाल दोगे तो भी it's not going to happen. आप सोचो इक्वेटर इंडिया का कितना, इक्वेटर अर्थ का कितना बड़ा, ये इक्वेटर का भी एक्सपेंशन है. आप अगर if you make Earth a bigger circle, then जो इक्वेटर बनेगी उतना बड़ा है और उतना ही ठीक है, right? So you don't, it's not a simple line, so the collisions don't happen. But obviously, this stationary orbit, geostationary orbit will be more crowded, right? यहाँ पे ज़्यादा सैटेलाइट डलेंगी relative to geosynchronous. Why? Because there are many geosynchronous orbits. This is also a geosynchronous, sorry. This is also a geosynchronous orbit, right? This is also geosynchronous orbit. This is also geosynchronous orbit. So there are many geosynchronous orbits. किसी भी एंगल पे हो सकते हैं. Stationary is one. So stationary orbit is more crowded, but clashes don't happen. So now India again, we have put 4 satellites in geosynchronous, 3 satellites in geostationary. What is the coverage of our regional system? It covers entire India, and it covers 1,500 kilometers from our border. So अगर हम India, and by the way, if you want to and it covers 1,500 kilometers from our border. So अगर हम India, and by the way, if you want to learn how to draw India in your name, I'm teaching you that now. बहुत अच्छा नहीं बनाना होगा, but you draw 1 3 like this, 1 3 like this, and you link it. ये बन गया हमारा JNK. Then you draw one straight line, go down. This is Rajasthan, and then you make this for Gujarat. Then again you draw a line for Maharashtra. This is done. Then you draw here. ऐसा बना के you make a box for Nepal, 1 box for Bhutan, and 1 box for Bangladesh. Then you connect here and slightly curved lines you connect. It's done, and this is a decent enough map for you because you have to do this in 15 seconds. Okay? तो जो हम बात कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे IRNSS की, नाविक की, ठीक है? तो it will cover what part? It will cover entire India, पूरा India इसने cover कर रखा है, and whatever from our border, 1,500 kilometers it is covering. Why? For safety purpose. वो कैसे होता है, क्यों हमने ये बनाया, हम अभी नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में डिस्कस करने वाले हैं. So it is a regional system. Okay? All right. Now, अब ये न्यूज़ में है नाविक, क्यों, उसके बारे में बात करते हैं. So, the central government क्या कह रही है? It is saying to smartphone makers, to people who make our phones, it is saying that in new devices, you integrate the NAVIC system, not the USA Navstar system. And what are they saying? You must add the L1 spectrum band, which is part of the GPS. What are spectrum bands? Why L1 only is the GPS band? All of that we will see right now. Okay? हम आज ये spectrum bands, electromagnetic spectrum, हमने सब देखने वाले. Okay? So this part is clear to you? I hope there is no doubt till here. Okay, this is in the news now, that's why it's important. It's the previous year answer. All right. So अब क्या होगा? Once you do this, you will be able to use NAVIC in civilian sector. Okay? Civilian sector में जैसे GPS को हम use करते हैं, वैसे हम NAVIC को use करते हैं. So what will it do? You can track public vehicles, right? Let's say you have a GPS system of your own, and there is a bus. You can track that bus कि वो किस टाइम पे कहाँ जाती है. You can map the routes. आपको एक जगह पे इंडिया की, मान लो आपको दिल्ली की बात करते हैं, अगर this is Delhi, and there must be some public transport system ना, हर बस का एक अलग रूट होगा. So if you have your own NAVIC, you can make these routes, map it out, and rationalize them. Right? So technology when it's developed, that to develop indigenously for Indian conditions, always helps in saving money. Okay, थोड़ा सा एक और भी बताऊंगा मैं आपको आज. So ये मैपिंग हम कर सकते हैं. This is one of the applications of NAVIC. Right? Then let's say that we see through our GPS or our NAVIC system that some natural disaster or cyclone is forming in the sea. तो हम warning दे सकते हैं fishermen को. Right? We can track criminals also who are using the system through their phones, etc. again natural disaster information. तो and अगर मान लो इसमें और वो है, like let's say they ask you can GPS be used in banking services? So yes, it can be used because you can track the assets, you can track the vehicles that are carrying the money that take the money to the ATM, right? So when you are thinking about the uses of technology, think slightly broadly. Okay, जब आपको ऐसा क्वेश्चन है broad सोचना है अपने को, कोई outlandish चीज नहीं सोचनी. Again, Navic cannot solve the Ukraine crisis. Navic cannot make India energy independent. Are you understanding what I'm saying? But Navic make India's banking system better? Yes. I hope you know what I'm trying to tell you. तो जब ऐसी कोई टेक्नोलॉजी है, स्पेशली यहाँ पे 99.9% टेक्नोलॉजी जो यूज में है, स्टार्टिंग में, they will all be covered. So when you know the technology, think broad. Okay. Now let's talk about Navstar. Navstar is so popular. जो global positioning system है Navstar है, they have become synonyms. Like उनका same name हो गया. Like that's how popular they are, right? So in GPS, satellites are in semi-synchronous orbit. अब ये क्या होता है? आप word breakdown करो. I have written it here. Just do the word breakdown and think. What semi-synchronous must be? If geosynchronous orbit is around 36,000 kilometers. Okay, then what must be semi-synchronous? Semi-synchronous would be half of that. Somewhere around half of that, doesn't have to be exactly half, अभी आपको बताऊंगा क्या है, but somewhere around half of that means somewhere close to 18,000. This is how you do word breakdown. मान लो आपको नहीं पता, you have not read it, you can relate it with कि हाँ, it is something similar to what was there before, something similar to our geosynchronous, we know, so something similar to that is written here, so we can derive that it must be close to something like this. Okay, now इसमें कितनी satellites हैं? How many satellites does GPS have? It has 24 satellites. The distance is at 20,200 kilometers. And it takes 12 hours to completely. अगर हम एक normal satellite लेते, it would take how many hours to complete the orbit? 24 hours. This would be a geosynchronous satellite. Geosynchronous. Correct? But मैंने क्या किया? I took the semi-synchronous orbit. If there were 24 hours and I had this was the satellite, और मैं उसका आधा कर दिया distance, so how much? Now the duration of the orbit is going to be again half of that. So this is the actual meaning of semi-synchronous. It was earlier covering in 24 hours. Now it will cover in 12 hours. Okay? And for this they have used 24. This is the number of satellites. This actually, the more satellites you put, obviously it will become more and more informative. The system will become more and more correct. So जैसे जो Galileo system है, so why is it called the most accurate? Because it has 32 satellites. So since it has 32 satellites, it is said to be more accurate. Alright. So यहाँ पे 24 satellites have been put. 20,000 kilometers was the distance. Alright. So completing the orbit in 12 hours. This is Navstar of Venus. Now how does it work? काम कैसे कर रहा है? इतनी भी satellites हो, but how is it working? This is it. So होता क्या है? जैसे ये Earth, right? If you let's say what is happening is, I'll demonstrate here. This is the Earth's condition. You are standing here. There is one satellite here, one satellite here, one satellite here. It is sending signal to your phone and receiving signal. Again, this is not the exact mechanism. I'm just explaining. You don't need to understand this. ये एक signal भेजता है और receive करता है. Right? Now this signal is sent in the form of light. But light की भी कोई particular speed है. And as we know, speed is equal to distance upon time. Okay? So light की एक particular speed है. उस speed से signal आता है, उस speed से signal वापस जाता है. So that is happening at a particular time. तो इस signal को आने और जाने में there will be very small time delay. Let's say the signal comes to your phone in 1 nanosecond, goes back in 1 nanosecond. So here the signal will go at a different speed, or it will be a different distance. Speed तो same रहेगी. यहाँ पर जो distance वो different होगा. यहाँ पर distance different होगा, यहाँ पर distance different होगा. So 3 signals from 3 or 4 satellites, whatever is required, 4 satellites will send a signal, and then it will come back. So यहाँ पर एक different distance, यहाँ पर एक different distance, यहाँ पर एक different distance from your phone. So then they will calculate the time delay. कि इतने को वापस आने में कितना टाइम लगा, इसको वापस आने में कितना टाइम लगा, इसको वापस आने में कितना टाइम लगा. Right? Time हमें पता चल गया. Speed fixed थी. So what can we find? We can find the distance. कि यहाँ from this point where you are standing, from satellite 1 what is its distance, from satellite 2 what is its distance, and from satellite 3 what is its distance. So then from 3 satellites we will find that okay, this is the exact position of this like person who is standing. This is the exact position. So this is what? This is the idea of trilateralization. 3 satellites से हम information लेते हैं, then we calculate signal testing and time delays. ये करके we do trilateralization. What you need to remember here? Only the word trilateralization. इसके अलावा आपको कुछ भी याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है. But it works through this. I hope you have understood कि signal आ रहा है, signal वापस जा रहा है, उसमें जो time delay है, वो check करके हमें क्या पता चल रहा है time. Speed of signal is speed of light, and speed is equal to like okay, speed is equal to distance upon time. तो ये मैंने calculate कर लिया, ये मुझे पता है, so I can calculate your distance from any other known point. This is how GPS is locating you. When you are moving, it is constantly interacting with the satellites above the Earth and checking it. आपका like where you are exactly to the concept of time delays. Okay, all right. Now, what are the applications of GPS systems? Application of GPS is of two types. एक है standard positioning, which we are using Google Maps etc. इसमें अगर थोड़ी बहुत, let's say there is a 5 meter gap. मान लो 5 मीटर जहां वो आपकी लोकेशन दिखा रहा है और जहां खड़े उसमें 5 मीटर का गैप है. यू मस्ट हैव सीन दिस हैपन जब आपने उबर ऑर्डर करी होगी या आपने कुछ खाना ऑर्डर किया हो, तो कभी कभी लोकेशन एग्जैक्टली नहीं देता, बिकॉज़ हियर वी आर यूजिंग स्टैंडर्ड पोजीशनिंग सिस्टम. इसमें अगर थोड़े बहुत गैप भी है तो काम चल जाएगा. बट द अदर सिस्टम इज द रिस्ट्रिक्टेड पोजीशनिंग सिस्टम. ये जो रिस्ट्रिक्टेड पोजीशनिंग सिस्टम है ये मिलिट्री सिस्टम है, राइट? अब मिलिट्री सिस्टम इज वेरी वेरी एक्यूरेट. It is exactly accurate. Because why? Because here we are tracking other countries' military as well as our military using these satellites. So it is a restricted system. You, if you want, till you have security clearance, आपको इस restricted positioning की access नहीं मिलेगी. Civilian positioning, standard positioning की मिल जाएगी. So now, why did we develop Navic? हमने क्यों मतलब इतनी मेहनत करी जब GPS बनाया था? Like in Kargil war, we asked Americans that you give us GPS. You give us GPS so that it will be of use to us. Okay, so that we can use it in the Kargil war. But the Americans denied it. They said no. So at that time it was felt that civilian positioning they will still give us every day because they need money for it. But restricted positioning, even after offering money, America might say no at some point, right? So we will need our own system. We will need self-reliance. At that time, what we did, we started the idea of Navic, and today Navic is used for restricted positioning only. And as we have read, for civilian positioning, it is now started to be integrated, right? We have read that current affairs is there, that center is saying that okay, you have to integrate Navic. All right. So this was the reason why we had contemplated the idea of Navic. So Navic contributes to something called strategic autonomy. Now let's understand what this term means. Strategic autonomy ये काफी important है because बहुत ज़्यादा न्यूज़ में है, and our foreign policy is now constantly revolving around the idea of strategic autonomy. Let's say I am fighting a war in Kargil. I need restricted positioning. I don't have Navic. So what do? I can either talk to USA, or I can talk to Russia, or I can talk to Europe, or I can talk to China. Let's say USA says no. So what do? I go to the Russians, and the Russians say okay, great, take it, no problem, right? Then what happens? I win the war. We won the war in Kargil. Then 2 years later, there is a vote in the United Nations General Assembly that should we expand the United Nations Security Council or not? Should we abolish the veto that is given to these 5 permanent members? Should the veto be abolished or not? This vote is happening in the General Assembly. At this time, Russia will come to us and say vote no, and we will have to vote no because next time when war will be there, again we will need Russian satellite of Luna, right? So we don't have autonomy to make decisions in strategic matters. So the main objective of Indian foreign policy today is to achieve strategic autonomy. When we are autonomous, when we have the full authority to make decisions on strategic matters, only then we will become a real world power, right? Because if we have our own system, then we can tell the Russians that no, whatever vote is happening in the United Nations General Assembly, we will vote as per our own interest and not as per your interest, because we do not need from you anything so essential that we can undermine our interest. This is the idea of strategic autonomy, and it comes not only from foreign policy, but it comes from domestic policy, it comes from science and tech, it comes from economy, it comes from the environment. And this is why Navic is a great example. If a question is there on strategic autonomy, which I am assuming it will be there in this year's list. Okay. Now, what is the second application of GPS systems? The first one was navigation. What is the second application? The second application is time. Now, you might think, what is the time? The exact time. What is the exact time right now in terms of even milliseconds? Right? This thing is not known to you or me, and even in the computers it will be different. Millisecond में different नहीं होगा तो nanosecond में different हो जाएगा. There is no clock that we are having in our wrists or in our hand or in our homes that is exactly accurate because these clocks are mechanical. How does a watch operate? A watch has certain gears like this, or rather like this. Okay, certain gears like this. Many gears are connected, and they are connected in such a manner that they are when they move, 1 second passes, the second hand will move. This is how the mechanical clock works. Okay, one gear is interlocked with the other. They are moving in such a way that it causes the second hand to move. But mechanical clocks are not accurate. यहाँ पे कितनी problem है? Friction हो सकती है, oiling proper नहीं है, battery नहीं है. And even if you do it digitally, if you measure time digitally, you will have to input into the computer what a second means. I hope you understand this. Computer को ये नहीं पता what a second means. You can tell it to count seconds, but you will have to tell it what a second means. So how do we find out what a second means? 1 second कितना टाइम होता है? ये हम कैसे डिसाइड करेंगे? हम अब देख रहे हैं, बट हमने कैसे डिसाइड किया कि इतने ही टाइम पे सेकंड हैंड मूव करेगा, राइट? हम 1 सेकंड को अभी के 4 सेकंड के बराबर भी कर सकते हैं, राइट? बट वी हैव टू कोऑर्डिनेट विद द अर्थ. अर्थ जितने टाइम में घूमती है और जितने टाइम में रिवॉल्व करती है, उससे हमें ये टाइम कोऑर्डिनेट करना है. सो नाउ हाउ डू वी डिसाइड व्हाट इज 1 सेकंड? फॉर दिस वी यूज एटॉमिक क्लॉक्स. What are atomic clocks? They use radioactive decay. What is radioactive decay? We will study when we study nuclear energy. ये कुछ ऐसे radioactive elements यूज करती है जैसे कि सीजियम, जैसे कि रुबिडियम. मैं यहाँ नाम लिख देता हूँ, उनके कंसेप्ट अभी बता रहा हूँ. जैसे कि सीजियम, रुबिडियम, इनमें जब ये इनके न्यूक्लियर क्या है, इनका जो एटम है वो बहुत बड़ा एटम है, राइट? जैसे हमने जो एटम देखा था, इट्स अ वेरी वेरी बिग एटम. तो सिंस एंड देयर एटम्स आर अनस्टेबल, सीजियम, रुबिडियम, इस तरह के जो एलिमेंट्स हैं, इनके एटम्स अनस्टेबल है. तो क्या होता है, मान लो सीजियम एटम है, एवरी 1 सेकंड it will start, it will emit an electron, and this time will never change since it's a chemical property. आप कोई भी सीजियम उठा लो, वो 1 सेकंड में एक इलेक्ट्रॉन दे रहा है. So then the time that is taken by a cesium atom to release an electron is called 1 second, right? आप उल्टा समझते हैं. अब मुझे नहीं पता सेकंड कितना होता है, तो मैंने अर्थ के रोटेशन रेवोल्यूशन से मैच करना है. तो I took a cesium atom, I saw कि इसका जो टाइम है इलेक्ट्रॉन निकालने का, that if I use as a second, then I can use 60 seconds as a minute, then I can use 60 minutes as an hour, and then I can use 24 hours in a day. तो 1 सेकंड कितना होता है ये यहाँ डिसाइड होता है. There is no other way to decide what 1 second is. Now as you have seen in GPS systems, even tracking के लिए it is using time delays. अब हम हर कंप्यूटर में, इन एवरी कंप्यूटर आई कैन नॉट पुट सीजियम, राइट? तो सीजियम रुबिडियम से हम बनाते हैं एटॉमिक क्लॉक। एटॉमिक क्लॉक की इंफॉर्मेशन देते हैं हम to the satellite, and then the GPS satellite has timing of all computers. It's very important that across the world the times of computers remain the same. अगर आप अपने कंप्यूटर का टाइम मैनुअली चेंज करके 2001 कर दोगे तो आपका इंटरनेट चलना बंद हो जाएगा. It will always say that you don't have safety certificates and you require a safety certificate. You can bypass it and still access the internet, but there will be problems. So it is required that to the last nanosecond the timings of computers around the world have to be same. That is done through cesium rubidium clocks to decide what 1 second is. But I cannot put a cesium rubidium clock in every computer. तो मैंने क्या किया, मैंने cesium rubidium clock से डेटा लेके सैटेलाइट को दे दिया और सैटेलाइट से वापस एंटेना से कंप्यूटर्स को दे दिया. So this is the second application called timing systems of GPS. Okay. Continuing the mid-Earth orbit, what have we read so far here? We have read GPS and the various systems, the difference between global system and regional system. Regional का example IRNSS, global का example NAVSTAR, and what is the differences? And इसकी application क्या है? What is standard positioning? What is restricted positioning? What is time? ये चीज़ हम पढ़ सकते हैं. अब हम देखते हैं कि और क्या-क्या इसकी purposes हो सकते हैं. जो geostationary satellite है, it is in a circular orbit at 35,786 kilometers. If I convert this into miles, it will be 22,222 miles. Okay. Sometimes in MCQs what they will do is they will put this figure as kilometers. तो ये आपको याद रखना जरूरी है. And sometimes they will put this figure as miles. 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. Okay, ये होता है. So in this case you should know, right? कि miles हमेशा छोटा होगा figure. Okay, 24 hour का time है इसका geostationary का, it is matched with that of the earth. Right? कि miles हमेशा छोटा होगा figure. Okay, 24 hour का time है इसका geostationary का, it is matched with that of the earth. The direction of rotation of earth is west to east, so the direction of revolution of geostationary has to be west to east. Right? This is done. Any आपको समझ आ गया? So high Earth orbit is that orbit that is above 36,000. 36,000 के भी ऊपर है, so that is high Earth orbit. इसमें जो main application है वो है Lagrange point. अभी Lagrange point क्या होता है? For this we will see a video. This is a video by NASA on what Lagrange points are.
Lagrange points named after Italian astronomer Alberto Bosconi are places that solar system with rotation of the planet and the sun and the motion of the orbit combine to create an equilibrium. So it takes very little energy to retain that orbit. Objects that are sent to these locations in space either tend to stay there naturally or can be kept there with minimal energy because the forces are enormous. NASA is taking advantage of those Lagrange points to send extraordinary missions like the James Webb Space Telescope, which will orbit the Sun at Earth's Lagrange point number
James
2,
Webb
allowing the
Space
telescope to stay
Telescope.
in line with Earth as it moves
Allowing the
around the Sun
telescope
and
to
retain
stay
that
in a
orbit
line.
using very little fuel.
Allowing the
NASA's
telescope,
Lucy mission
allowing the telescope to stay in a line. NASA's Lucky mission will study the pristine Trojan asteroid.
Study the pristine Trojan asteroids, the remnants of our solar system that have been gravitationally trapped.
The remnants of our solar system that have been gravitationally trapped. The remnants of our solar system. The remnants of our solar system that have been gravitationally trapped
around Jupiter's Lagrange point number 4 and Lagrange point number 5 for over 4.5 billion years. So what are Lagrange points?
So what are Lagrange points? So my question is that what are Lagrange point? The Lagrange point are the position in the space which are, or we can say which are in the vacuum, and there is no gravity pressure on the object which are be placed on that particular Lagrange point, and the gravity is balanced by the earth and the sun, and the gravity is balanced by the earth and the sun. They are the points where we can say the vacuum is there, so the object is placed in a stationary situation.
Points. They are places in our solar system where objects can orbit the sun at the same speed as a planet, staying in the same place relative to both them.
Okay, so basically हम इस वीडियो से क्या समझ आया? That Lagrange points are those points जहाँ पे the gravitational pull of the Earth, the gravitational pull of the Sun, and the motion of the orbit is in balance. For every planet, the gravitational pull will be different since every planet has different mass. Now, since every planet has different mass and the gravitational pull will be different, every planet has different Lagrange points. Okay, ये है Earth के Lagrange point. Earth has 5 Lagrange points: L1, L2, L3. L4 and L5, right? These are the 5 Lagrange points of the Earth. जहां क्या है? Gravitational force of Earth, gravitational force of Sun, and the motion of the orbit ensure कि इस point पे what is happening at this point, जो इधर force लग रहा है और इधर force लग रहा है वो बराबर है. तो ये point क्या हो जाता है? Stable, right? If you want to put something here, you don't have to put an effort since it is stable, right? तो ये है Lagrange point. These are 5 Lagrange points. Please remember their position. This is important that L1 is between Sun and Earth, L3 is on this side, L2 is here. So L1, L2, L3 are on the Sun-Earth line. L4 and L5 are not on the Sun-Earth line, right? L4 ऊपर, L5 नीचे. ऊपर नीचे से फर्क नहीं पड़ता because it's an orbit, it's circular, so it doesn't matter. But Sun-Earth line matters and position matters. L1 is between Earth and Sun. L2 is this side, and L3 is here. Okay, all right. Now, high Earth's orbit has Lagrange points L1, L2. The distance of the Lagrange point is about 16 lakh kilometers from the Earth's surface. Okay, satellite at this point, if I put a satellite at this point, right? It will also start orbiting like this. Okay, now this satellite can constantly monitor the Sun without the impact of a solar eclipse. If I put a satellite on L2, or let's say I put a satellite in Earth's orbit and I wanted to look at the Sun, it will be a problem. Why? Because this satellite के बीच में कभी Earth आ जाएगी, इसके orbit में कभी ना कभी एक point आएगा कि Earth आ जाएगी and it will not be able to look at the Sun directly. But at L1, it will have an orbit that is able to look at the Sun directly. So at L1, it is forming a halo around the Sun, and therefore L1 orbits are called halo orbits. Right? These are 5 Lagrange points. Forces are back. Balance L1 पे halo orbit. Clear? Okay. There will be no impact of solar eclipse, and satellite at this point will constantly monitor the. Now, there are 5 Lagrange points in outer space for the planet of Earth. For Earth, there are 5 Lagrange points. Okay, if a spacecraft is placed on such points, it remains in a halo orbit, and the Earth and the spacecraft together will go around the Sun. जैसे हमने वीडियो में देखा था, that the Earth is also going around the Sun, and the object in halo orbit is also going around the Sun. Now, L1, L2 and L3, this is an important point. L1, L2 and L3 are in unstable equilibrium. They are in equilibrium. Equilibrium means forces are balanced, but they are unstable. L4 and L5 are in equilibrium. Equilibrium means forces are balanced, but they are unstable. L4 and L5 are in stable equilibrium. क्या मतलब होता है इन दोनों टर्म्स का मैं बताऊंगा, बट सुन के बेटर लग रहा है स्टेबल इक्विलिब्रियम. स्टेबल मस्ट सीम लाइक अ बेटर थिंग, राइट? तो हमें आइडियली सब कुछ L4 और L5 पे पुट करना चाहिए. वी शुड हैव पुट ऑब्जेक्ट्स हियर, बट एवरीथिंग दैट वी डू इज मोस्टली क्लोज टू L1 and L2. व्हाई? देयर आर टू रीजंस. एक तो L4 और L4 L5 स्टेबल तो है इनका इक्विलिब्रियम, बट दे आर वेरी वल्नरेबल टू एस्ट्रॉइड्स कमिंग एंड हिटिंग देम, तो इसलिए नहीं पुट करते. एंड इफ समथिंग इज इन अ कंप्लीटली स्टेबल इक्विलिब्रियम, तो जब उसको वहां से हटाना होगा तो हम हटा नहीं पाएंगे. दिस थिंग लेट मी एक्सप्लेन टू यू. दीस आर द थ्री टाइप्स ऑफ इक्विलिब्रियम. यहां देखो, in this case इस बॉल पे फोर्स बैलेंस है, राइट? इट इज अ बैलेंस फोर्स. बॉल कहीं जा नहीं रही, इट इज एन इक्विलिब्रियम जैसे लैग्रेंज पॉइंट पे. बट अगर मैं थोड़ा सा भी पुश यहां दे दूंगा तो इट विल कम आउट. ओके, स्टेबल इक्विलिब्रियम में क्या है कि इफ आई गिव इट अ पुश इट विल गो लाइक दिस एंड कम बैक. तो जो L4 L5 है दे आर इन स्टेबल इक्विलिब्रियम. जो L1 L2 L3 है वो है अनस्टेबल इक्विलिब्रियम. दिस इज द डेमोंस्ट्रेशन. थर्ड टाइप ऑफ इक्विलिब्रियम इज न्यूट्रल, राइट? कि आप थोड़ा पुश दोगे, जितना दोगे वो उतना ही जाएगी. Unstable equilibrium में the amount of push you give and the amount that ball will travel is not the same. Ball will travel both. तो हम फिर भी